Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Suzanne Walker, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager for Health Administration here at Jones & Bartlett Learning. I'm here today with Derek Wessler, co-founder of Junction Education, who is going to take us through Junction's robust online course for healthcare delivery. This course features content from our best-selling text, She Delivering Healthcare in America, brought to life with OER resources, real-time insights, practice activities, auto-graded assessments, and more. And with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Derek Wessler. Derek?
Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Certainly appreciate everybody taking the time. For today's presentation, we're going to have a couple of sections just to give you a sense of what's coming. First, I'm going to give a little bit of background about Junction and a little bit of background about the course that we built here and what you'll see. We'll then spend most of our time in the demo itself, and we'll go through a couple of sections of that. One is a student view, so how a student progresses through the material. We'll then spend a bit of time on some of the instructor options as well, so things you can do to customize your course, some of the analytics and dashboard options that you have as well. And then finally, as Suzanne mentioned, we're going to open it up for Q&A. So if you have any questions, just pop those into the panel on the side. Feel free to do that during the presentation as well. We'll be capturing them and going through those, but you don't need to wait till the end. If you have something that comes up, feel free to shoot us that note. So what is Junction? Junction is, at its core, a learning platform that is designed to make life and learning easier for you and your students. The birth of Junction, if you will, was started by myself and my co-founder. We had, between the two of us, spent about a dozen years at McGraw-Hill working on the digital transformation of that business. And we're deeply familiar and involved in things like Connect, Learn Smart, Alex, and many of the other adaptive programs that we're working at McGraw-Hill, and ultimately became a little bit frustrated with where that was going. We have this belief that technology should make learning both better and more affordable. And what we were seeing was that it was really doing neither. It certainly wasn't making things cheaper. And in terms of better, that's a bit debatable about whether it was or it wasn't, but it certainly wasn't the big step forward we would have liked to have seen or we had seen in other industries. We began by delivering OER-based courses, and we've delivered those now to tens of thousands of users. We have a battery of courses in the introductory subject areas where we use open educational resources. A good part of that was to learn about how students go through material and what they learn, and we've now evolved that to a very high degree and are really pleased to be working with Jones & Bartlett and taking their course material and bringing it into Junction. So in terms of the course that we're going to go through, and we'll spend a ton of time here, just the things to keep in mind, right? A very simple and smart design. The interface needs to be dead simple for students. If you need instructions as a student, then we've done something wrong. Keep it simple and keep it easy. The course blends Jones & Bartlett learning content as well as OER resources. So it's a mix. We're picking the best of both. The OER resources are predominantly videos because that's where the wealth of OER material exists. It includes assessments, both practice and graded, real-time insights for both you and your students, entirely customizable. So as I'm going through this course, note, and I can talk about this and I can show you some of this as well, everything is customizable, from what lessons or pages appear to your students to the sequence in which they come into the material itself. So if you came in and said, you know, I've got my own material I really want to use here, great. That can be added in either through the authoring tool which you have access to, or we can help with that as well. Can fully integrate with your LMS, Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Sakai, Desire to Learn, and is WCAG 2.0 compliant. So with that, let's jump into the product demo. So I am now at my course homepage. This course homepage, I as a student could get here one of two ways. Either you can send your students to our website, they would create an account, and then you would give them a unique course code to register, or this can be set up with single sign-on through your LMS. And we can talk more about that later if that's of interest, whereby you present a link within your LMS. Students click on it, and it simply logs them into your course. When I say your course, I mean your course. So this is what you're looking at. This is Delivering Healthcare in America. but this can be customized to you. So your students are going to enroll in your section. If you reorder things, rename things, add different things, change due dates on assessments, whatever it might be, this is your section to do with as you like. Now, the course homepage itself, a couple of things. There are, as you'll notice, right, a number of lessons or modules or chapters. These are the same 14 chapters that exist in the textbook, in the same sequence. This is not so much a either or. If you're currently using this textbook, this follows the same path and sequence as the textbook. If you are somebody that prefers to use a textbook, you can use this with your students and keep the textbook because the material from the text is the same in the same order. This is not a completely different course. So keep that in mind. It's a very simple switch if you're already using the textbook, or a very simple add-on if you also want to use the textbook. The second thing to note, right, it's just a simple layout. So students get, right, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, that can be edited if you'd like. And all they need to do is click around. Thirdly, you'll notice you've got these green and red bars on the side. This is an adaptive course. So we are tracking student usage throughout the course, how much time they're spending, where they're spending it, how they're doing on their assessments against individual learning objectives. And we're using graphics here to show students progress. So very simple indicators. And I, as a student, I can quickly look here and I can see, all right, I've done pretty well on lesson 1 and lesson 2. Lesson 3, right, that was the week where I got sick or I had to travel, and I actually never even went through it, so I haven't done anything yet there. But I came back, I did really well in week 4. Now I'm on week 5 where I'm just making it through this material. So it gives students a sense of where they are and where they're going. The progress is really helpful for students, so when they come in and they can actually jump back to where they need to go to remediate. These are clickable, so learners can come through and they can see all of the different learning objectives in each of the lessons, and they can see how they've done against each one of these. So they could tell there's some of these where they're doing pretty well, and there's others where they've actually not done well at all. So the whole goal here, and this is true for laptop, which you're looking at now, this is the exact same experience on mobile. Obviously, the application reflows. It's HTML5, so it's the exact same information, but designed fits much better on a mobile screen. But all of this is available to students in whatever access point they choose. So I know here that I'm on week 5 medical technology. So I simply click on that, and I'm taken into my lesson. A note about the lessons. The lessons are all structured in a similar way. So the view, you'll see, is very similar to what you saw on the course homepage. Keep things simple and familiar for students. The other thing is all of the lessons follow a very similar structure and flow and format. So while we're looking at lesson 5 on medical technology, if we were looking at any other lesson in this course, they would all follow very, very similar structure and sequence. Again, make it simple for students so they know exactly how to navigate and how to make it through the lesson. Anytime a student has to stop and think about what it is they need to do next, you just run into the risk that they're going to stop studying, break, and do something else. The specific structure of the lesson. So they all begin with an introduction, and then you'll notice I have from 5.2 through, in this particular case, 5.11, I have the subsections of the text. So this is an adaptive course, and it's broken down into subsections. If you have the textbook, you'll notice that from the textbook authoring perspective, they're called A-head, or the subsections within a textbook. That's how we're breaking down this material. So smaller, more digestible pieces of content for students. When students make it through that, they do get practice activities, an in-class presentation, and a lesson quiz. I did mention customization. All of this can be customized. If you're the kind of instructor that wants to give the lesson quiz before the in-class presentation, we can simply move that. You could do this with the authoring tool. Move it up and make it before the in-class presentation. If you wanted to lock the in-class presentation until the day of the presentation so students didn't have access to that, you could do that as well. So a lot of options for you here in terms of how students get this material. In terms of going through it, students simply click on their lessons and then begin learning. So you'll notice here, all of the introductions, or excuse me, all of the lessons or chapters begin with the learning objectives, which they get here, and then students may also click through to the chapter introductions or the chapter summaries. Very simple, very easy. When a learner is ready to progress, they have a number of options for navigating, and this is the same for you as the instructor. My menu bar, you'll see, will allow me to navigate not only to any page within my lesson, but will actually allow me to navigate to any page within the course. So you can see I can jump here into page to lesson 2 or lesson 3. I can navigate here through my breadcrumbs. So I can see, first of all, how far into the lesson I am. I could also navigate anywhere I wanted. This is a popular option for students, and we see clicks here quite a bit the second or third time a student is going through the material. So if they're going through the first time, they typically go through sequentially. If they're coming back, they're going to remember that, yes, I needed to go through 5.8, the impact of medical technology, and then they can navigate right there. The most common way is just clicking this next button, and you can't see all of it because I have these GoToMeeting controls, but I'll slide those down just a little bit. You'll see that I have a next button and a back button here, which is the most common way to navigate. So I'll simply click that, and I'll be taken to what is essentially my first learning page, if you will, in this lesson. The first page being the introduction and the summary and the learning objectives, you prime students. This is my first learning page. And this is focused on the subsection, what is medical technology? Everything on this page is about this particular subsection. It begins with a short reading. You'll see I'll scroll through this, and I will scroll through this so you can get a sense of length. These subsections are not particularly long. These pages in total are not designed for students to be spending a half hour on. Students should probably be spending somewhere about 10 or maybe 15 minutes on each one of these pages on all of the material here. So they're going through these pages somewhat quickly. There's not an entire chapter's worth of reading. The second thing to note is that this is an ebook. This is the complete ebook. So you'll see here that I can actually navigate the entire contents of my ebook if I choose. But I, as a learner, I'm presented with only what I need. So I can navigate if I choose to, but I don't need to. All I need to do is read what is presented to me. I do have the standard ebook features you'd think about. So if I wanted to say highlight, I could do that there. I could highlight, I could take notes, I could do whatever it is that I like. So I have my ebook here. I also get on this particular page related to what is medical technology. I get my key terms, so just a few related to this particular topic. I then get an OER video, which you'll see here. When it comes to medicine and healthcare, we're seeing a similar shift from the power and knowledge to held by the few to the masses because of technology. So the videos that you see here, these are not substitutes for the text reading. These are designed to supplement the text reading. They're designed to give learners, if you will, a real-world application of what they might be looking at. So this video goes on, and he talks about some things. Google Health, I believe, is one of the things that he talks about. But the future of medical technology, giving learners an example of what they're reading here in the reading. So engage them with those videos. They're out at YouTube watching these videos anyway. What we want to do is keep learners here. So they get their reading, their key terms, their videos. They then get a practice assessment. This is assessment for the sake of learning. This is not assessment for the sake of evaluation. And you'll see here that I have 3 questions. These are not graded. I have fill in the blank questions, and you'll see that I can check my answer immediately. I did get this wrong. I can navigate through. I have fill in the blank. I have matching. I can also check answers on. And then I also have multiple choice. And again, all of these come with check answer. In these cases, students often don't even submit them. This is just something where a student can go through, yep, I feel comfortable, I'm ready to move on, or no, I'm still not getting this, let me actually go back and reread. You also have the option for what we call demonstrate your knowledge. These are longer answer type questions. These do not auto-grade. So these can be used for either practice or assessment. If you want to use them for assessment, obviously you would grade them, but they're provided to students as a learning experience. So I, as a student, would enter my response here, and I would then go ahead and I would submit my response. Now, when I submit my response, you will notice that I immediately get feedback. And this is the feedback, these questions and this feedback comes out of the instructor guides, so you have access to all of this outside of the application as well. But the goal here is tied to each one of these learning objectives, you have this wealth of material. Whether you're going to grade this or not, it is a valuable tool for students and a valuable way to take all of that material that Jones and Bartlett Learning provides and get it into the hands of your students very easily and very simply. If you don't want to use these, you can simply take them out. It's that simple. Before I move on to the next page, which looks similar, all of the pages follow a similar structure. They all have evaluation in terms of assess your knowledge. Most of them, many of them have videos, not every page, because there are a lot of pages and a lot of readings in here, but where it makes sense, they do. Before I move to the next page, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the other features and functions that students have access to. The first, on some pages, you will notice that there is an additional materials tab down at the bottom of the page, and that reveals a slide up that has additional materials. In this case, one additional video. Right, this is 5 amazing pieces of technology. The goal here is that sometimes students don't like the material you presented. Sometimes there's a lot of really good stuff. Sometimes students want to explore more and they want to learn more about a particular topic. So we give them the ability to get access to these additional materials as they like, not required, but they can if they want. So if they're struggling, they don't need to go to Google, which is where they often go. They can stay here. The other functions I will talk about. So an assist function. Students get stuck. That's what happens sometimes. We don't want them contacting you. We know you don't want them contacting you because you don't know how to help them when it comes to this, nor should you. So we give them the assist function, which allows them to do a couple of things. One is self-service. So say oh, I need to find my grades. I can put in my query there, and it will immediately give me, right, an answer. Where do I find my grades? And here's your answer. If I cannot find it in my guide here, I can start a conversation. And you'll see that I can open this up, and I can send a message, and our support team answers those questions. We do answer technical questions, obviously, and the content questions come through. We do send them back to you, the instructor. But if a student is having trouble with an assessment or a student is having trouble with some sort of navigation issue, they can contact us. We do recommend that you tell them that and that you include that in your syllabus, that if they are having technical difficulties, to call us, and we will answer their questions for them. I get a messaging panel. So you'll see here, and I will try to move this GoToMeeting out of the way. You'll see that I am populated here with my section. So as students enroll in your course section, your message panel will populate, and students can then contact each other. Do you want to meet, to study, or whatever it might be. But it's very helpful. It's very helpful for your learners because, one, they don't, especially like an online course, they don't know who's in their class. Two, they don't know how to contact them. So it gives them a way to contact each other. I'm going to move these controls here. You'll also see this little camera button. Students can also one-to-one video chat here. So if I open this up, I will give my video. And you can then see that students can do one-to-one video chat. So again, for online courses, hybrid courses, a really nice way for students to use the application to meet with each other without needing to know who's in their class, without having to exchange phone numbers, without having to say, yeah, I'll meet you at the library at this particular time. Much more designed for today's students who are on the go and may not always be around a campus. This message panel, I will mention, you can shut this off if you don't like this, or your institution does not want this available. We can shut this off so students don't have access to this. The study center, I'm going to go through when we talk about adaptive notes. Students can take notes directly in the application. So I'm going to take my note here. This note is tied to this particular page. So as I navigate from page to page, my notes will change. A really nice feature for students that helps them keep their notes really organized. They don't have situations where they say, yeah, some of my notes are in my notebook, some are in a Google Doc, some a friend Xerox for me. It's all very simple. It's all right here for them. So really easy for them to take notes. A search feature. So if they're, yeah, we went through something much earlier about, I don't know what it was, chiropractors or something, I could go through and I could search for chiropractors and I'll get a list of all of the pages where that existed, and I could jump back. Textbooks often refer to things that they've taught in previous chapters, and students forget that. So we want to give them a very simple way to navigate back. Like, oh yeah, now I remember what that was, and then move on. So make sure they have avenues when they're struggling with learning. Students do get a full glossary, so they can search this particular glossary. Right, everything is You can type and search for words. And then finally, a feature that we see used a lot, professor video meeting. So if you wanted to have online office hours, similarly to before, you can open up your window here. Hello, everybody. Students can then come in here, and students will jump in, and you'll see all of your students right here in this particular window. They could raise their hand to raise questions. You can have a chat with them. You can share your screen. So if there's an instance where you find that your class or your section is struggling with a particular topic, you can open that up and you can teach that. If you find that you have a cohort of students who are all struggling and you wanted to have online office hours because they couldn't make it to campus, you can do that. It's available to you. Students come in and join. You can lock the room if you want, so if you wanted to have more of a private meeting. But it's there for you. It's included in the courseware as it's delivered. So in terms of navigation, when I'm ready, I simply move to the next page. And as you'll see, a very similar format. Again, keep it very simple for students. They know exactly what they're getting, and they know exactly what's coming next. Makes it very simple and easy for them. And students will progress through each one of these sections or A-heads, if you will, and go through the learning and practice. Once they're ready to move on, you'll see that I'm going to jump here to the practice activities, which are the first page that aren't specific to a subsection within the textbook. Students do get a few practice activities that cross the entire chapter. So in this case, they get some flashcards, and they can go through those flashcards. It's a good way to help learn just key terms. These come from the text. And students do have the option if they want. You'll see that I can change my study mode here. So students do have the option. They can come through and they can do this as a test. So they can go through and fill in answers here. And they're given matching and fill in the blank. And these will all auto-grade for them. Again, all for students. You don't see this, just a very low-stakes way for them to actually practice. You get an in-class presentation. In terms of customization, if you have your own in-class presentation, they can be swapped out for this. So you do not need to present this. You can present whatever it is like. If you want to remove this, you can. If you want to schedule this, you can. Entirely up to you. And then finally, the lesson quiz. The lesson quiz you'll see here, so it begins with a metacognitive question, which feeds our adaptive engine. So how confident are you in the material? To answer whatever makes sense. And then you go into the assessment. The assessment is fill in the blank, it is multiple choice, and it is matching. So students get a variety of questions. You will see here that I have already taken this assessment, and I have not done particularly well. I only scored 12 out of 49. Which means that the adaptive engine is going to kick in. And when I mentioned the study center before, that's what happens. So as you take the assessments based off of your score, based off of where you spent your time, based off of your metacognitive evaluation of how you feel about the material, your study center will be populated with a number of pages or lessons. And you'll see in this case, I have a few from earlier on in the lesson. And I have a number here from lesson 5 where I did extremely poorly on my quiz. The lessons appear in here, as I mentioned, based off of how you perform. We do also incorporate Ebbinghaus forgetting curves. So if you had, as an example, in week 2, which in this particular demo was, say, 3 weeks ago, if you just barely passed the lesson, right, where the threshold is 70%, if you just squeaked by at 71, and it was several weeks ago, it will get re-triggered for you. And it will say, this is based off of Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. This is something that you are likely need to brush up on, and we will push it back to you as a reminder. As a learner, it is now up to you to go in and say, where do I want to go? Do I want to go back to lesson 1? No, what I really want to do is I really want to start mastering lesson 5, and I'm going to jump back to 5.3 right here, information technology. Going to jump back to that page. I'm now here, and it now says, okay, this is the material I need to go through. I'm going to go through my terms again. I'm going to go through my material again, because this is an area where I need to remediate. When I'm ready, if I feel like I want to reassess, I can open up my study center here, and I have my quiz me button. And I can open up a new fresh quiz, which is just a few questions where I can go through and I can answer my questions. And I don't know if I'm answering these correctly or not. I scored 1 out of 2. So I will not. This will stay in my study center. But the goal here for adaptive is to use adaptive as a guide for students. We do not believe in adaptive as a locked-in pathing course. We do not believe in simply putting up content in front of students and taking them out of the driver's seat. What we found is keeping students in charge of their learning experience, deciding when to go remediate, where to go remediate, is much better for motivation than it is when it's just, okay, based off of what you did, here's the video, watch it. Now read it. Now take the assessment. It puts students in almost a bit of an autopilot where they're just basically clicking through what's on the screen. In this case, keep students engaged, let them go through this at their own pace, let them go through this as they like, and keep them in charge of the experience. So students can use that QuizMe to clear out their study center. They could also reassess, so go back and take another lesson quiz. And depending on how they do, they will then start to work through this checklist. And we've been, not really surprised, but the power of a checklist where students are given all of these things they need to go through, it seems to be an internal motivation for students to want to get through that list and start to knock things off. So we do see that, and we found that's a very valuable way for students to actually go through the material. So with that is the student experience. That's how students go through the material. Students also do get some dashboards and grade books. I am going to move over here to the instructor side just so I could show you some of that. So this is the same course. I'll navigate here. All right, this is my delivering healthcare. I am on this particular instance logged in as an instructor. So I do have a couple of other options here, but you'll see it's the same course. When I go to menu, I have as an instructor, I have an insight option. You'll notice I also have a grade book, so you do get your standard grade book as well. We find instructors spend a lot of time here on the dashboard. What we try to do with the dashboard is help you manage your course. And what we do is we answer the questions that we get from instructors most frequently. The first question being, how well is my class doing and what % of my students are on track to pass? So we give you a learning gauge here. Not only the 72% average score, because that in itself is only moderately helpful, we're going to break down your class into the cohorts. So you can quickly see that you have 4 students here who are basically below 69% or below 70%. They're at risk of failing. And you can see that it's about a quarter of your class. Most things, just about everything on this dashboard is clickable. So when I click that, I will see my roster, and I will see, with my dummy data here, student scores. I can then jump into any particular student. So in this case, Enrico Ferme, I can open up a specific report on this student. And I can see that we're through lesson 3. I can see that this student is actually doing quite well, scoring an average of 97% on the assessments versus the class average of 72, actually spending a lot less time in the lessons than the class average. But you get the sense here that you're going to be presented with data for each student that is also compared to the class average. If a student scored a 68 on a quiz, but the class average was actually a 59, well, maybe it was just a really hard quiz. So you want to be able to have that view, which you get here both from a grade perspective and a time perspective. So the ability to determine exactly where all of your students are at any given point. Probably more interesting, and something we see more usage out of is the next question, which is, well, what am I supposed to do about it? Or what can I do about it? And while we can't answer that question specifically for you, we do want to help you answer that question of how I can help my students. So we present the engagement dial, and that will break down your course into those who are on track to pass the course and those here who are off track. If you are off track, you are going to be broken down to either struggling or disengaged. Struggling students are those who are spending time with the material, but not doing well. But they're putting in the effort. They're there, they're going through the material, they're doing the reading, they're doing the quizzes. Disengaged students, on the other hand, are not. They're not spending time in the material, they're not logging in, and that's why they're not doing well. Clickable, so you can see the list of your students that are struggling, disengaged, and on track. You can email them from here. So if you click this link, you will open up an email that BCCs all of your students, so you don't know so they don't see each other. We see this a lot. Instructors tell us that, yep, I'll go through this maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, and I will email all of the struggling students just to remind them that I have office hours, to remind them that they can always reach me on the online office hours. But we hear from instructors all the time that if a student is putting in the effort, putting in the work, the instructors will meet them to do what they can to get them to pass the course, as opposed to the disengaged students who get a bit of a sterner message. In addition to all of the data you can see on this page, you'll see that I can see lesson by lesson. I can compare the average assessment score, the average amount of time that students have spent, number of students that have logged in. I will also spend a moment on the alerts. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to open these up. Behind the scenes, we are running an early alert analytic system. The early alert analytic system will message students on their emails and on their phones. It is an opt-in system, so when students register, they'll be provided, they will have to opt in to receiving messages from us. If they don't, we obviously will not send to them. The messages go out once a week, and they go to all students, regardless of how they're performing. If you are doing really well, you're going to get a positive reinforcement kind of message. The messages change week to week, so they keep students fresh, and they do adjust based off of student performance. If you are struggling, you will get a positive message that reminds you to keep logging in and keep trying, and maybe a message to contact your instructor, but you're going to get messages of that nature. And if you're a student that's not logging in and are persistently disengaged, you will continue to get a message reminding you that passing the course without getting engaged is not going to help you. But these go out automatically. These go out to students on their phones because that is what students read. They do not read email, they read their SMS messages. And it takes a bit of the burden off of you in terms of having to go through this and figure out who needs to be messaged and who doesn't. We also find, and we hear this from students when we survey them, that if they get an email or an SMS message, on a Tuesday when they're not in the courseware, it's just that reminder that like, oh yeah, I've got a quiz due. Oh yeah, I meant to do this particular thing with my courseware. It helps get students re-engaged, getting them to think about the material at a moment when they're not in the material. So it's just one more point to get them to come back, helping them pass the course, which ultimately is the goal, successful course completion. I will also spend, while I'm here on the instructor side, I am going to spend a moment on customization capabilities, just for a moment. So you'll see here that when I log in, I am an instructor that does have edit mode right here, edit access here, so I can access that course. You can tell when you open the menu, you will see this edit mode here. If you do not all instructors have this, so if you find that after you've requested the course and have access, you do not have edit mode, but you do want to make changes to the course outside of quiz due dates and things of that nature, all of which are adjustable. Just ask us and we can provision that for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick my switch here and I'm going to turn on edit mode. And what you'll see is I get a very similar navigation, but I now have many things that are editable. If I, as an example, wanted to do something like this, where I wanted to say September 3, and then September 10, or something of this nature to help keep my students on track, I can simply rename. If I wanted to reorder these particular lessons, because I happen to not teach them the same order that they come out in the book, I can click my reorder button and I can simply drag and drop, as an example. You'll see now I've reordered and I've renamed. If I wanted to schedule a page, so if I said, well, I don't want you to actually have access to this page until September 9th, on year here, but I can navigate through and I can make this, that you can't get here until, say, September 9th, and I will schedule that particular page. So I've gone ahead and I've edited. You'll notice that when I now come back out of edit mode, which basically gives me my student view, I've now got my tags here. I've got this, which is visible, but I can't click on it, or clicking on it isn't doing anything. And I've now reordered these. That capability works just as easily in a lesson. So if we were in this medical technology lesson as an example, and you said I wanted to make the in-class presentation the last thing in the lesson, you could simply drag it and drop it there. You could schedule it. You could do whatever it is that you like. I will also note, while I'm here in edit mode, that at the very bottom of everybody's course, you have access to a midterm and a final. These are in draft mode, so students do not see these. When I was on the student side, it wasn't there. You have access to these. You can give these to students in the courseware. You can set these up through your LMS where students can have a link or drop directly into that midterm or that final, take the final, and then the score will be recorded back into your LMS. And students will only be able to access that through your LMS. They will not be able to see this. But it is there for you if you wanted to use the midterm and the final that are provided by Jones and Bartlett Learning. I will also mention that the assessments, if you want to add new questions, if you want to add your own questions, if you want to change questions, you can do all of those things. You can set due dates on the assessments. You can accept late work on the assessment. So if you wanted to allow students to complete the assessments at any point in the term, they can, and if they're late, you have the option to accept them. You can control when scores are released, when correct answers are released, the number of submission attempts. So everything you'd expect to see with an assessment engine, you have all of those controls as well. And you'll notice you also have your instructor resources. Right? So with that, let me jump back to my PowerPoint. And what I will do is I will open up for questions. So Suzanne, if any questions have come through on the chat, I'm more than happy to answer any of those right now. For those of you who are still listening, if you do have questions, you throw those into the chat. We will get to those and we'll try to answer as many as we can. It does look like there are quite a few questions that have come through, but feel free to ask questions and we'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, great. The first question, Derek, is about the accessibility for students with disabilities. Can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So we are, as I mentioned, WCAG 2.0 compliant. The application is available on screen readers. So screen readers in your native browser can go through and read all of the HTML. All of the code is tagged with the appropriate levels. So students can use voice controls to go through and to navigate the application. And everything is captioned and tagged. So yes, entirely available and easy to use for students and WCAG 2.0 compliant.
Okay. And there are multiple questions about the how well this can be integrated into an LMS like Blackboard or Canvas. There's probably
I imagine that there are. So let me do this. Let me jump into yet another window. So for those of you who are Canvas users, this probably looks familiar. For those of you who are not Canvas users, this is Canvas. What I'm going to show you here, what I'm going to talk about here, works the same for any LTI compliant LMS. That includes Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Schoology, Moodle, Sakai. I'm sure there are others. If you happen to have one I haven't mentioned, we can check. But as long as it's LTI compliant, which is the system of integration that all of these LMSs use, this will work the same way. What I've done here in Canvas is I have created what's called an external link. The terminology is slightly different from LMS to LMS. It's a very simple process to set up. It requires 3 pieces of code, which we provide you when you register for a course. In just about every instance that I've seen, instructors have the ability to set these up on their own. Occasionally, LMS admins are required to do that. And if that's the case, we'll just work with your LMS admin to set it up. But it is a 60, 90-second process where you set up this link, and then you are given this link to drop in on your course homepage. You can name the link as you like, and as you'll see, right, I've got no other browsers open. I'm in Canvas. When I click on my link, Canvas is going to ask me to open this in a new page, which it needs to do. I'm going to click on that, and you will see that I am now automatically logged in to both Junction, the application, as well as to this specific course. So each of you would get a link that has specific credentials to your course, and you could drop students directly into your course. That's all they would need to do. If this were the first time I, as a student, had logged in, I'd have to agree to terms and conditions. So I'd get a window that asks for terms and conditions. And I would also get a window that asks for payment, which I mention in just a second, but it will take me right there. That's all you need. So if you want to use what's called single sign-on through your LMS, you will be able to set up that link, and you do it through settings, and we have plenty of help documentation on doing that. It's really quite simple. And that's all you would need. Students wouldn't need URLs, they wouldn't need course codes, they wouldn't need anything. And this works just the same on a mobile device as it does on a web page here or a tablet. That's all you would need, and this link would take students there. You'll see I can deep link, so I can drop myself directly into a lesson. I could also drop myself directly onto a quiz. If I do so with a quiz, the score would then push back into Canvas, so it would actually sync with my grade book as well. I did mention that when you come in here, you're also prompted for a payment. Students can pay with a credit card. Students can also pay with a course code. So we can work with your bookstores, obviously, no problem, and students can purchase course codes at the bookstore. If you would like, students can also have a grace period at the front end of the course. So, kind of an inclusive access kind of model where, students have a grace period before the add drop deadline where they're forced to make a payment. They might see a payment window, but they can dismiss it until after the add drop deadline or up to the add drop deadline, in which case then they would be asked for a payment. But we do know that, students drop classes, they move classes, and to have a student, which seems to be kind of popular now, that students say, well, unless I'm really sure I'm going to keep this course, I'm not going to go ahead and buy the book. Then that's not good for anybody, so we want to avoid that as well.
Okay, I have another question here about the instructor's ability to input OER content and how they would go about doing that. Wondering if there's a template or, what they need to do to input it. Yep.
So we do have instructor guides that you can use. You're basically given the same interface that I had shown you before, where you open up edit mode. You can basically just click a plus button. You can upload images, documents, PowerPoints, Word documents. You can link to videos on YouTube or Vimeo. If you have your own videos and they're not hosted, we're happy to host those for you, so we can host those as well. And whether it be Vimeo or YouTube, we can pull in all of those. You can create your own assessments. You can create your own discussion boards. You can reorder things. Not only creating new pages, but if you wanted to add to existing pages. So as an example, I showed that page on what is medical technology. If you said, I don't really like the video you guys use and I want to add a different video, you can absolutely do that. So the course is yours to change and customize as you like.
That kind of feeds into a question that I have here, that I see that it has an auto grade feature for quizzes. Are the tests and quizzes embedded, or can the instructors swap out? We use mostly written papers as assignments, so I'm wondering how it could work in terms of embedding instruction and accessing grading submitted papers.
Yes, that's a great question. So the assessment engine is within Junction. That assessment engine, you can alter the questions as you like. So you have access to the test bank of questions provided by Jones and Bartlett. So if you said, listen, I don't like the 25 questions that you've selected, I want to choose others, you can absolutely choose from the test bank that's already there. You can add your own questions. So if you said, I wanted to supplement this test, or I want to write an entirely new test, you can do that. There are about three dozen different question types that you can use. Obviously, there's some that auto score, multiple choice, matching, fill in the blank, drag and drop, things of that nature. And there are others that don't auto score. Those would require an instructor to go in. Through Junction, we have an interface where you can go through and you can review students' work and add that score and add the grade. That can be an uploaded paper. It could be a PDF or a Word document or a PowerPoint document. It could be an audio submission. So you can actually have something where you ask students a question and then they record their voice, an audio recording within Junction, and submit that audio recording to you. You can do a video recording. So the student would open their assessment, it would access the camera on their phone or their computer, and they would do a short video submission. So it's a bit of a different take on the short answer. You can set the parameters on all of those as you like, graded, not graded, number of submissions, number of points. And then as those come through, you're alerted to those and then have the option to grade those for your students and issue them points.
Okay, there's another question here about support. During what hours can students get live help for their questions?
Yeah, so officially we're 9 to 9 Eastern. Realistically, we're on much later. There's usually help for them through about midnight Eastern. Starting at about 6 a.m. to midnight Eastern is when the live help is available. But whatever questions come through overnight are immediately responded to. I will say that our incidence of help desk calls is very, very low. So I spent, as I mentioned, a number of years at McGraw-Hill, and we've worked with a number of publishers. We get very, very few help desk calls from students. The application is fairly simple and intuitive, so they don't come through very often. But we do, we do provide that service, and it is, we do run support on the weekends as well, because surprisingly, we see our biggest peaks on our application usually midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then also Sunday night. About 9 o'clock Eastern is when our volumes really start to tick up, and we get heavy usage Sunday evening from about 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern time. So we do staff then as well.
I have a number of questions about pricing and the cost to students. And the cost for the Junction course is $64.95. And I just was wondering if you had anything additional to add to that.
No, so it's $64.95 is the price that they buy direct, and obviously we'll work with your bookstores as well. And just to be clear, that comes with everything you've seen. That comes with the complete ebook, so there is no need for students to purchase a physical copy. They can if they'd like, but students will have access to that complete ebook in the application, so there's no need for any additional purchases. That's the adaptive version that comes with all of the support features that you've seen. And for instructor support as well. And I will mention, only because there was a question about instructor editing. If you do need assistance, so we do provide assistance for students as an instructor. If you are interested in a lot of customization or something like that, we provide instructor assistance as well. And you can simply click that assist button just the way your students would, and jump into the chat and say, hey, I'm an instructor who's thinking about using this course, but I'd like to learn more about uploading an assignment. Just let us know, and we'll either help you right then and there, or we'll schedule a session where we can jump online with you and do a web conference and help you with that as well. All of that is included in the price for your students.
Great. There's another question here about the availability in other products. Will you be providing this opportunity with other texts? Example, Essentials of U.S. Healthcare System, so the shorter SHE book. Do you want to speak to that, Derek?
Yeah, so right now we have 3 Jones and Bartlett courses available through Junction. This course covering healthcare, cyber warfare, and nursing informatics. We are looking at expanding that stable, so to speak. So we do have those. If there are courses that you're looking at in particular that you think would work well in this kind of an application, do let us know, because we do like being guided by the market here rather than us looking at the portfolio. We like being guided by the market. So if there are courses you're interested in, please let us know. May not be relevant if anybody does teach intro areas. Probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense here with the nursing, but we do offer intro courses as well in psychology, sociology, U.S. history, economics, and biology.
Okay, there's a question here asking if Junction is replacing Navigate 2, and the answer is no. Junction is this is very different than Navigate 2, and they offer different capabilities. So no, Junction is not replacing our Navigate 2 product. More questions about cost. Some questions about the time it would take to complete a Junction course. One question here is, how would this be used for a 5-week all online course? I think that might be hard for Derek to answer, but I'll punt it over to you, Derek. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so without knowing the details, and by all means, just shoot us a note. We can jump on a separate conversation. So if this is a 5-week accelerated course, then where students are going to go through all 14 chapters just in an accelerated pace, it would look and feel much the same. We might choose to rename some of the lessons to keep students on pace, so with dates and things like that, and obviously the dates of the quizzes would be abbreviated as well. If you said this just did not include all 14 chapters, then we can simply remove those and resequence those so students didn't see that. What we've done in other instances where some schools, and again, I don't know the specific implementation here, where there were kind of these 5-week sprint courses where 3 5-week sprint courses was basically the same thing as a complete course. Now, what we can do is we can actually break this course into 3 unique courses for you, offering 5 lessons for the first 5-week course, 5 lessons for the second 5-week course, and in this particular case, 4 lessons for the last 5-week course, and break it up that way. And we could look at that and we could figure out the right pricing model there for the 3 courses. I think it would largely be the same if it was the same material. But if you taught this course, as an example, in 3 different sections, we could break it up that way. So that's no problem at all. And we can assist with that. If you need help structuring or setting up a course like that, we could absolutely do that.
Okay, this is another time-ish question. How many hours does it take for a student to complete a particular chapter? I'm trying to determine credit for the course.
Yeah, so this follows the same the same basis as you'd see for this course out of the textbook. What we're looking at, what we believe is this is about 2.5 hours per lesson for a student to get through that. That is not including the time that they might spend in class as well. So this is the out-of-class material. Now, what we also see across all of our courses is that the time varies quite substantially, and that we actually find that the time is not necessarily doesn't correlate with scores necessarily. So the students who score the best are not necessarily spending more time. They're all over just as all students would be. But there's a wide range of scoring of time here. But on average, we're looking at about 2.5 to 3 hours per lesson.
Another question here, is there a standard syllabus or can instructors add one?
So there is a syllabus that Jones and Bartlett provides with this. So yes, there is a standard syllabus. What I would say is when it comes to Junction, our goal, and I'm not sure if this is the question that's being asked, is not for you to have to tailor your syllabus to the book, rather have this tailored to your syllabus. So if you teach things in a slightly different order or a different sequence, then you would simply adjust it in Junction to match your syllabus. If what you're looking for is just a syllabus so you can actually include this, then yes, Jones and Bartlett provides a syllabus with all the information you need. The syllabus for each of the chapters in the book exactly matches what you see in Junction. So it's a perfect one-to-one crosswalk on syllabus for the text and syllabus for the courseware.
There's a question here, do they keep access to the ebook forever? And I believe the standard student access is 180 days. Is that correct, Derek?
So access to the complete courseware is 180 days. If you do run a semester that runs long and you need an extension, we can certainly talk about that. Students can actually access the ebook for longer. So the ebook provider, and we provide them instructions for that. They can set up an account with the ebook provider, and then once the courseware access runs out, they can still access the ebook.
There's another question here asking if there's a discount if they buy the Junction ebook with a physical book. And the answer is we don't currently have sort of a bundle option for it, but maybe we can revisit that. And the price is right now $64.95 is what we talked about earlier. Okay. Is there a minimum number of students?
1.
It's a good answer. So as long as you have a student, you've got a class.
That's right.
Great. Can a plagiarism detector be added before assignments are submitted for grading?
So that is something that we're looking at including. As of right now, we actually we don't. But if you do have plagiarism detection software at your school, you do have access. So if students upload reports to you in Word or PowerPoint, Word form, you can load those through Turnitin or one of the other anti-plagiarism software systems.
Mm-hmm. I think that covers most of the questions. If people have additional questions, you can certainly email myself or Derek. There is one question here on how to get started. And the first way to get started is that you can register for trial course access. I put in the chat box this URL. So you can click on that or cut and paste that, and you can certainly request the trial course access, and that way you can get familiar with it much more closely. You can also go to the SHE Junction course. Just go to our site and learn more about the specifics of the SHE Junction course. And there's a lot more information on the Junction Education platform at www.junctioneducation.com. So I want to thank everybody for coming today and thank Derek for a very informative presentation. And please feel free to contact us with questions. So thanks all for attending. This ends the webinar. Have a great day.